Okay, hi everyone, and we're back with the first AMA session on our YouTube in 2021. And today we have as our guest Ricky Dodds from the Icon team. And Ricky, thank you for joining us, and looking forward to a interesting discussion.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I believe we should start with a short introduction. So can you please tell us a couple of words about yourself, what you're doing with the Icon team, what's your position, how long have you been into crypto, and any interesting fact about yourself as well?
All right, so I've been in the crypto space sort of formally with Icon since 2000. I previously worked in traditional finance. I worked at Deutsche Bank for many years in investment banking, equity research, covering financial institutions. Really got interested in crypto early 2017, as the major banks were exploring blockchain use cases, and I sort of saw the evolution of where the space was eventually going to go, and now we're starting to see that thing sort of play out with everything that's going on in DeFi. So been interested in this space for a while. Sort of heard about crypto well before 2017. Sort of dismissed it, but fell down the rabbit hole quickly in 2017, and decided to sort of switch my career path and sort of make this my life going forward. So, and then with Icon specifically, I've been helping one of the founders of the project sort of build out sort of strategy and basically an ecosystem that can help sort of foster growth abroad. So, Icon is sort of more of a domestic project in Korea, but we have sort of global expectations, and I think we've built out a good nucleus of team members within the U.S. and we're looking to expand that globally over time. And I'm helping one of the founders do that.
So where are you based right now? It seems like it's early morning there, right? The sun is rising.
Not too early. It's I'm based in Florida these days. I used to be based in California, but I moved to Florida in the COVID era.
Right. Hope you aren't stuck there or something. Yeah, as you can see, it's getting towards the evening over here. So yeah, good thing we found the time to talk. So yeah, perfect. Thank you for the introduction. And of course, addressing our community, I would like to thank you as always for supporting us, for tuning in, for interesting conversations like that and helping us grow in such a way. And as usual, our AMA session is going to consist of Ricky answering the questions that have been submitted by you earlier in our via the Google form that we have attached to our announcements. And apart from that, towards the end, we may also answer a couple of live questions. Yeah, of course, to incentivize you guys and to let's say reward you for your participation, we're going to offer a small reward for every one of you whose questions have been chosen. So I will announce more details about how to receive your reward a bit later. Yeah. And as I already mentioned, the first block comes from the Google Forms questions, and here are 7 best questions, so we can get started. The first one, it's pretty simple. Yeah, what is the story behind the creation of your blockchain, and what does its name mean? Do you have any other coins, tokens, or products?
So that's a good question. Maybe I'll start with the second one first. So I don't really have an idea of like where the name Icon came from, or like how it was generated. I assume it just is a cool name, and its actual meeting icon. You could show some sort of like devotion to this like symbol. So I think there is like something you can draw from that. Like we are trying to build something that will outlive all of us that are currently working on the project. So it's something to sort of strive to. But as far as like the genesis of the project, I would say it was sort of born out of enterprise blockchain. So a handful of the founders previously worked on a project called The Loop, which was it's still in business today. Now it's transformed its name to Icon Loop, but they were basically working to build out like bespoke blockchain applications for enterprise clients and government entities. This was in probably like 2016. I sort of saw Their competition was like, Hyperledger and so sort of these Ethereum, private chains. And they saw like an opportunity to potentially, carve out a niche within Korea and be sort of the thought leader and sort of the go-to enterprise blockchain consultant. That business sort of continued to expand and grow and started to see like even more meaningful traction as we sort of moved through the bull market of like 2016, 17. And the founders saw, an opportunity and basically the trajectory of where the space is heading. Like, private blockchain is great, but I think we all sort of see the downsides to that. And we see where this is all sort of heading, assuming we can get like more regulatory clarity and, things with privacy are like addressed. But we all sort of see where the blockchain space is sort of going to go into the future. Maybe it's not going to be this year, next year, or 5 years from now, but eventually it will get there. And they saw that and sort of took advantage of an opportunity to build upon their expertise and launch this public blockchain network, which is one of the largest in the world. Consists of many private chains and also many applications built on top of it. So so we're still in the early innings of sort of building out this network, but we've seen a lot of good progress since 2017. We have a lot of good things in store for the balance of the project in its entirety. So a lot of things sort of in the works right now, but that's sort of where we sit from 2017 to today.
Right. So any additional info about your like network as it is today? Any additional maybe thoughts or plans for new products being launched on Icon?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things I would say like that are in the hopper, so to speak, for this year. One I think we'll probably talk about is the migration from our current blockchain to what we call Icon 2.0 or Batang. So that's going to be, I think, like a monumental sort of step change in not only technology, but in capabilities within the network. And I think, in tandem with that, we have some other things that I think the community would be very excited to hear about with, partnering with, other projects to launch our bridge, some of the biggest projects in the world, some of the ones that are, getting the most sort of attention right now. So I think that there's a lot of things that are sort of in the pipeline that are going to be very attractive and very sort of exciting for our community to get involved with. And I think we'll also expand like our developer community, which is something that we're, very keen to do this year.
Yeah, I can imagine that after like the hard year that 2020 has been, you must have a lot of plans for 2021, hoping it's going to be better.
Yeah, and we're hopefully like we can sustain this also. So it's like, we did a lot of building through like the bear market, and it was tough, like, because everyone's sort of human. You're sort of looking at the market and you see it, and it's kind of like a little demotivating. But I think our team like did a really good job of sort of keeping their head down and sort of staying focused and knowing that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and we're sort of taking a very similar approach. I think we see where the market is today, so it may be more of a sprint right now, but we're sort of building for the long term. And like I said, we're trying to build something that sort of outlives us that are currently working on the project. So,
right, perfect. So that's a good segue into our next question, which is actually a pretty meaningful question to ask a representative of a crypto project, because even personally, I have talked to a lot of different teams and a lot of different representatives, and of course, a lot of them seem to be naming same things when talking about the advantages of their coins. Yeah, this decentralization, scalability, whatever, security. Yeah, and so this question is that you talk a lot about decentralization and transaction without intermediaries, but isn't that how other cryptocurrencies work? And what makes you different from others? So what is the this killer feature, this wow effect that the Icon has compared to others in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. I think that's one that a lot of projects probably like look in the mirror and say like, what are we adding to the space, and like what's additive? Like what is our sort of feature that we're sort of benefiting the space with? And I think with Icon, it's going to be BTP, which is our it's called blockchain transmission protocol. It's comparable to what Cosmos is sort of running with IBC. We think that's going to be a killer feature and something that we're really excited about, and something that's teed up to launch in the middle of this year. So I would say that's sort of our main, I would say, killer feature. But aside from that, I think what we're bringing to the table is maybe a bit more on the adoption side. So I think just going back to my previous point about the team's experience with enterprise and government, it's sort of bringing those folks to the table with regards to public chain adoption. So, a lot of this is, on the education front, but it's also with like the experimentation side. So we're trying to, lead the charge with regards to getting these sorts of entities comfortable with, crypto, comfortable with, where the blockchain space is headed. So I'd say, outside of like the technology side of what we're adding to the community, I think it's also on sort of the business development side and bringing these sorts of I would say, legacy entities into the crypto realm. So I think we're doing a good job there. And then I will say, there's other things within our design that I think will be unique. I would say sort of stay tuned for Icon 2.0 to see what those look like. But we believe, sort of back to the ethos of like the project when it started, we want to be like a network of networks. Like we're an interoperability protocol. We're not trying to be like the number one base layer chain. Like, yes, we will have, we have those capabilities. We have smart contract capabilities. We have a number of DApps launching our network, but that's really not what we have set out to be long term. I mean, we've always wanted to be an interoperability protocol. And I think with BTP, that's going to be sort of our key feature.
Cool. And I just wanted to follow up with a quick question from myself. You have mentioned in both your answers, you have talked about your, your experience with the government, your stance on regulation, and obviously you seem to be operating in some part in the US, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a tough market. Yeah, it's like that's no surprise for everyone. And I just was curious to hear a bit more about your stance, your opinion on regulation. How do you see the future of blockchain, like integrated or separated from the this traditional regulatory framework, and how are you moving forward in this in such circumstances?
So I think what you've seen in the past sort of 6 months has been pretty positive with regards to not only adoption, but entities exploring, providing blockchain applications within their sort of normal run business. And not only just with the addition of like the ability to purchase crypto, but also thinking about ways to explore the underlying technology. Like JP Morgan, I would say, is sort of like leading the front on that charge. Like I think that they are no longer sort of a blockchain, not Bitcoin. I think they're sort of a blockchain and Bitcoin a part of this sort of migration. So I think getting entities like that to sort of understand, yes, the blockchain can provide some synergies and cost savings on different parts of their business lines, but also they see sort of the crypto native side that there is value in these sort of non-state backed digital currencies. And I think this year has been a great sort of proving point there, and I would expect to see more and more of those sorts of change of hearts over the coming years.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and that's the next question is going to have you talk more about your current plans and the news of development of Icon. Yeah, and it states recently you have migrated to Icon 2.0, namely Icon Betang. But I know that we have talked that you haven't actually yet migrated, yeah, but you are in the process right now, yeah. So
yeah,
let's rephrase it a little bit and say that you're in the process of migrating to Icon 2.0, namely Icon Betang. So can you please clarify what is Betang? What's the core difference between regular blockchain and this one? And how do you address regular fundamental problems with the Go blockchain Betang? Will any migration be necessary, or from the user's point of view, nothing changes? Yeah, so two parts of the question. Yeah, first one is a bit of a loaded question. Yeah.
Yeah. So first I'll take the batang. So batang is a Korean word that means foundation. So we think of this as sort of the foundational piece for the project, into the years to come. So we're excited about that. We think the name sort of fits what we've built, and
Does it
we're
mean
excited.
anything? I'm just like, I've never heard this word before.
Yeah, it means foundation, like foundational.
In which language?
In English, it means foundation, but batang is a
Batang?
Korean word.
Ah,
Yeah,
Korean word.
batang.
Yeah, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So we're really excited about it. Like I mentioned before, it is a sort of a step change improvement to Icon. Let's call it 1.0. I think Icon 1.0 is sort of built in sort of silos and has a little bit of like technical debt to it, but this is just like a cleaner, more polished blockchain, and we think that the community is going to love it. It has additional features. I mentioned BTP is going to roll out with it, and it's also going to be have a Java virtual machine. You're going to have capabilities to write smart contracts in Python and in Java. So I think the developer sort of tooling is going to be better. Documentation is going to be better. So we're laying out the groundwork for improvement on adding new developers, sort of new users to the network, and we're excited about it. And then to your last point, like what are the fundamental problems or
Right.
anything like the user's going to have to do? So I wouldn't say that there's any fundamental problems to start. I think that Go is becoming like a more increasingly popular language, and I think there's a number of large projects out there that are built in Go. And then as far as like on the user side, I would say there's going to be no sort of like token migration or like there is going to be a migration, but there's going to be like no token swap, nothing on the user end.
Right.
It's going to be difficult to like be a part of this sort of switch. So we're trying to make this as seamless as possible. That's why it's sort of taken a while with the migration process, but overall, it's going to be pretty seamless from the end user.
Yeah, that's great because I think from a regular user perspective, it's better for it to take a bit longer, but to not require them to do anything. Yeah, so if it doesn't require any token swap, that just will make them like more patient, let's say, maybe more easier. Yeah. And about the Go programming language, I can attest to that myself. I'm no developer, but like recently I've been hearing this more and more and more, and even in our company there is growing interest towards it, you could say.
Yeah.
Good, thank you for the answer. And the next one digs a bit deeper into the payment side of things. Yeah, so the question is, for instance, to use Visa or MasterCard for payment, it is required to use their designated system and follow their policies. However, the Icon network allows each community to autonomously determine their systems and policies while reliably connecting to other communities when needed. Please tell us more how it actually works. Yeah, so this idea of everyone deciding on the rules while staying inside the network or the ecosystem. Yeah, it sounds really interesting, but at the same time, I think you might like need to explain it a little bit more. Yeah, how exactly this works.
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of buzzwords in there. So I definitely think that DeFi, in my opinion, like Bitcoin is DeFi, like blockchain-based applications are sort of DeFi. Like this is like value transfer without intermediaries. What Icon has built is very similar, like value transfer without intermediaries. And it's very fast and very cheap to do that. So that's sort of number one thing we've achieved, like the ability to transfer a lot of value P2P without an intermediary for a very cheap cost. So that's, I guess, the first part. And then sort of to your second question is like, how do we communicate with other communities who have sort of similar philosophies, but maybe like slightly different governance structures or whatever. Right. So we're of the opinion that there's going to be a lot of different chains, like app specific chains. There'll be Ethereum, there'll be a number of like other layer ones, there'll be other interoperability protocols as well. So how do we connect with those chains who have their sort of different governing structures, different sort of technology stacks, and that's where sort of BTP comes in, and that's our smart contract based interoperability protocol that we're really excited about. So with that, we'll have individuals or groups who will launch smart contracts on not only Icon, but these chains that we'll be connecting with. And at that point, we'll have a relayer set that will be able to look out for messages, pings amongst those networks, and transfer either information or data across those networks in a meaningful way. So, we're really excited about it. It's one of those things that, we've been talking about since 2017 when we launched this project. So it's kind of like a culmination of a lot of work. But yeah, that's sort of the end game there with regards to designing this sort of, like we said, foundational technology with Batang, and then launching this sort of feature set that we think is going to be something that sort of adds value to the ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, that does sound exciting, but like the quick question is, what does it actually take to become part of this? Like to launch a token on the ERC20 standard, it's basically like a couple of seconds. Yeah, what does it take if I want, for example, to become part of the Icon network, Icon ecosystem? What do I need to do?
Well, I would say first thing to get involved. Exchanges are kind of our partners in the fact that that's where you go to like purchase an Icon token. So I would say to first sort of experience Icon, I think it's best to sort of get in the game and maybe like buy a couple tokens, sort of transfer them through wallets, see how fast the network actually runs and how cheap it is, and then once you sort of get that sort of feel a bit, then you can start to sort of play around with the applications that are currently built on Icon, and the ones to come. You can sort of start to explore a bit more about those, which I think are really exciting. And then if you're thinking about like the developer side, actually launching a token or like getting involved with maybe even like core development or sort of like a developer like advocacy program, something like that. We have channels for that. We have an Icon dev group in Telegram. We have a Slack channel. So, there's access and there's materials to get out there and start to, play around with the network. But, that being said, we are going from this Icon 1.0 to Icon 2.0. So, there will be sort of a ramp up as far as like learning curve. If you start, an Icon 1 now, you probably have to, learn a few more things with Icon 2.0. That being said, we are launching our test net for Icon 2.0. That would be fully functioning with, basically all the bells and whistles of the new technology. That'll be launching in March, so a month away. So there's going to be some opportunity. Yeah, and I think we're going to design some cool things around there to sort of incentivize folks to sort of test around, play around, try to break things even. We're excited about that. It's sort of the next phase of Icon 2.0.
Good. There is somebody in the comments who says that Batang is also a Malaysian or Indonesian word, and it's the trunk of a tree. Yeah, so
hey, that's a good base. Yeah, that's a good base as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into the question number 5, and it says it is the following. Yeah, in your white paper, you mentioned the idea of tokenization and the potential benefits that blockchain can bring. Quote, it is possible to trade 0.2 apartments with 0.8 cards and pay insurance fee directly just by uploading 5 posts on our social media. But are you really working on developing something that will help speed up this process? Or do you have other products in development? Yeah, you have, I believe, partially answered this already about your plans, but maybe address this specific part of the question.
Yeah, I do think that's very like forward thinking. I think that's where the world is going. It's been 3-4 years since that was written, and I think we've made some progress on that front, but I do think that it's still years away to see that fully functioning in a way that it's sort of written there. I will say, on the tokenization side, we have a number of projects working on the Icon ecosystem right now that are, I think, interested in bringing those sorts of things to the table. So one is called Craft Network. They're going to do sort of an NFT marketplace. So when you think about like tokenized art, like that could be something very comparable. On the tokenized sort of security side, and like with tokens backed by assets. That's another thing that we're very, very interested in. We've written a couple articles about like our view that security tokens will be more and more interesting into this year and sort of into the coming years. I think you've seen with what happened in the Gamma squeeze with GameStop. I do think that settlement times are something that could be improved upon. Liquidity, like knowing actually like where liquidity sits these days is very sort of hard to know. And I think, having that based on blockchain and sort of seeing it real time is something that I think would be good for every sort of market participant, not only, the ones that are sort of running the show. So I think that we're going to start to see more and more assets come into blockchain infrastructure. I think there's a lot of projects out there that have started to go down that path. You have projects like Realty. There's another one called Alesia in Korea where they tokenize real estate assets, so you can buy fractional ownership within a single family home or like a condo or whatever, and get rental distributions for your ownership. So we know where that sort of sits, and we do think that there's a market there. We actually are working on our own sort of platform for something very similar. So there's going to be like a lot of different iterations of where we see the most growth, and a lot of these things can sort of be sort of like reskinned. If you have a real estate platform, you could sort of reskin that to a fine art platform or a wine platform, for example. So like a lot of these things can be sort of reskinned to different industries. We do think this idea of like tokenization of assets will start to gain a lot of steam into this year and into next year as well.
Yeah, I do personally find NFTs an interesting direction that crypto might go, because it just makes it has so many directions of adoption. We can talk about art, as you said. We can talk about real estate, basically everything up to your own, I don't know, medical records. It can be just something that is unique and specific to you or to a certain item. And that's a really progressional stuff, I think, there. Perfect. So and I just wanted to, you mentioned all this stuff that is happening with the GameStop and the Wall Street right now. So just your personal thoughts on that. What do you think is happening right now? Is it really something that the community does, or is it just some big players moving chess figures around, or some weird conspiracy theory or something like that?
I mean, I do think these, I would say it's like a hot ball of money that sort of can move markets very quickly. And as you saw with like GameStop, that was sort of amplified with the squeeze. I do think that it's not only retail that's like driving a lot of these like really crazy moves. There are funds out there with billions of dollars that trade on momentum, and when they see these sort of things start to trickle in, they sort of piggyback on them and amplify them even further. Think about like Rentech has become one of the most profitable and largest hedge funds in the world based on those sorts of strategies. So it's not just retail or like the Wall Street's bet crowd that are sort of making money here. A lot of these funds are making money hand over fist, more so than the retail crowd. And then they, I think, have a bit more like foresight and when things are starting to turn their way and are able to exit. Whereas at the end of the day, there are people who bought into GameStop much higher levels. You saw it sort of crater down to, I don't know what it is today, maybe it's around $100 or so. But at the end of the day, someone will hold the bag, so to speak, on these sort of assets that run up above sort of fundamental value, which is always bad, but it's part of the market. Like it's sort of free markets. I'm for a free market sort of proponent. I think yes, we should try to protect people as much as possible with maybe just education, but it's free market. So I think people who put their money in certain assets should know that money is at risk, and if you lose it, it's sort of your fault. Do I think that we should be promoting options in like a retail trading app? Maybe not, unless they're like fairly sophisticated folks who sort of understand what they're getting into. But that's sort of my viewpoint. I worked on Wall Street. I sort of know how the game is played. I think it is played to advantage those who are involved in it, and like who are, you know, sort of pulling the strings, so to speak, and maybe not as much towards like the individual investor. But that being said, I think that there is, you know, certain things that we could do on the regulatory front to just make sure that, you know, people just understand the risks that they're getting into.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly why, like, given your Wall Street background, that's exactly why I asked this question. I just was looking to hear some interesting insight or interesting opinion from you on that. And I do agree about the your opinion that the regulation and this the idea of protecting and educating is a really fine line. Yeah, because you may do something, you may like double down on the regulation with the, you know, good thought of protecting some investors, regular people, but it can very easily like cross the line and become this, you know, tyrannical, weird, scary stuff that we all want to avoid, right? So that's...
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that the idea, and just maybe like with everyone sort of working from home the past year or so, like getting people into the market is great. I think, you know, everyone should, you know, be invested in the market. I think sitting in cash or your own currency is, you know, that's a losing situation for a lot of people. So I think it's great that people are exploring the markets and, you know, making bets and, you know, trying to do some sort of, you know, analysis on their own front to you know, put themselves in a better position, you know, a year from now. I think that's great. And I guess I don't want like regulation to stifle that, because I think that's counterproductive. So
yeah. Talking about working from home, how is your, you know, how is the Icon team, you know, combating or has combated the COVID-19? Are you completely decentralized? Do you have a head office where you all can meet, or are you all working from home and just, you know, having calls with each other?
So we've been working from home since probably late January or early February of last year.
Connected to COVID, right?
Yeah. So we were all in San Francisco around that time, and San Francisco, at least in the U.S., was one of the first cities to sort of shut down. So we took, you know, the proper precautions there just to be safe, and you know, we've been sort of just migrating towards, you know, fully remote since then. You know, I've moved now to Florida, and we got other people who have moved, you know, to New York and etc. So you know, we've become, at least in the U.S., sort of very spread out and sort of remote. On the sort of Korean front, so we have a lot of our technology team, so like the technology provider for the network, has an office in Seoul. You know, so Korea did a really good job with mitigating COVID. So I do think that they've sort of gone back to more normal conditions there with regards to, like, you know, you can go into an office, you can, you know, go out to dinner. You know, I don't think maybe like the nightlife stuff is open as much, but I think that they're in a place where, you know, they're sort of more back to normal.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a mixture. Like we want to be moving towards like fully remote, fully decentralized, but you know, we have sort of a headquarters in Seoul right now.
That's what I wanted to ask, actually. Like this experience, which made you like more spread out and more decentralized, do you think it like has influenced the work and the like communication between your team in a more positive or in more negative way? Because we have been working from home as well for around 3 or 4 months, I believe, last spring, and although it was okay, so we managed to like follow our roadmap and not have any like major delays, but it was kind of tough. Yeah, it is easier for most of us to, you know, be face to face to your colleagues and be able to discuss things and to be there together. Yeah, and so I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I think it's a difficult one to, like, you know, put I guess a response on, because I on the one side I do like the idea of being able to, you know, do the work when it sort of fits into your personal life schedule. So I think everyone sort of has, you know, their own you know, roles and responsibilities outside of their sort of work life. So I think the ability to, you know, work from home and sort of fit in, you know, your work responsibilities within sort of your broader, just like, whatever family responsibilities or, whatever else you have going on in your life. So I think that's one of the key sort of benefits for me, at least, like working remotely. But I do think that, you lose a little bit of the, the interaction with your colleagues, which I think can be helpful. And I think it can sort of spark, new discussions, new, innovations, new sort of thoughts that can maybe, lead to new products or services or whatever, maybe new strategies, for example. So I think that we've done sort of a good job of maybe like marrying those two a bit. So, our team stays very connected, via, Zoom and all these other like technology platforms that allow us to still stay like very much together. We talk, for hours a day, sort of face to face. So we haven't lost like touch of the connectivity. It is a little, strange not seeing them, in person, but, it's something that we've sort of gotten used to. And when we sort of open back up more freely, I'm sure we'll get together more frequently as well.
Okay, great. Can you hear me and see me okay, by the way? There seems to be a little bit of network.
Yeah, you're a little blurry.
Sorry?
You're a little blurry.
Okay, yeah, let's hope it goes away. Maybe this helps. Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not an easy question to answer. Yeah, right. It has a lot of positive and negative consequences for the entire world. Yeah, and talking about decentralization, let's dig into DeFi. Can you hear me okay now?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so Icon seems to be working on two upcoming DeFi solutions, which are called OMM.finance and Balance.network. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so the question is, first one is how you are going to get adoption with those products. And the second one is, you seem to have mentioned somewhere that DeFi has not quite a lot of people involved nowadays. So how do you think you're going to reach a bigger audience with the help of those products?
Okay, so two good questions. On the first part with OMM and Balance, I'm really excited about those just because Icon needs these products in order to continue to evolve and grow. So OMM is very comparable to almost like a compound or an Aave for the ETH ecosystem. So it's a money market where you can deposit your ICX, take a loan against that, or borrow conversely against your ICX. So it's an ability to either lend or borrow your ICX to take positions either short or long on other assets. So that's one thing. And then on Balanced, it's very comparable to like a MakerDAO, where you can collateralize your ICX, take out a fiat or a ICX-backed stablecoin, use that stablecoin for normal purchases in your everyday life, or you can go and lever up and buy more tokens, for example. In addition to that, Balanced will also have an AMM, which you'll be able to basically mint synthesized assets based on your ICX. So you can think of it almost like as a mirror type protocol where you can mint synthetic assets on top of on Balance Network. So two cool projects that I think are going to add a lot of utility to the Icon network and also to ICX sort of as a base layer token. And then your question on how do you add users and then sort of what's the user space right now for like DeFi projects. So I think one of the pitches that the folks leading those projects have been running with is this idea that the DeFi space is very, very small. So even people who hold crypto today, it's a fraction of users who actually use DeFi projects and services. So we're trying to just expand that. So one, let's get the crypto holders who hold crypto today to try out some of these DeFi projects. And how do we do that? So one, we try to make the user interface very easy to use, very intuitive, very user-friendly. I think we've done that with both the projects. And two, how do we actually get people to onboard seamlessly and in a way that doesn't require you to, go to Coinbase, buy Bitcoin, transfer that Bitcoin to, Binance, swap that Bitcoin to ICX, send that ICX to these platforms. Like, we're trying to eliminate those steps to make this a simple process. And we've done that by this product called Bridge, which will allow an individual to go onto the Bridge application, this widget, where you can basically deposit fiat dollars and get back a fiat-backed stablecoin on the Icon network. So imagine just being able to, have a very simple user experience, similar to like Robinhood, for example, where you just go on, enter your bank account information, however much money you want to put into the market, and then hit send, and you'll receive your Icon dollars that are fiat backed, that are regulated by one of our partners. So that sort of experience will lead us to not only add value to those projects specifically, but also an ability to potentially bridge out or go out from these traditional like crypto users into maybe more mainstream users who are kind of on the fence about crypto, but maybe they had an easier onboarding experience. Like, this could be something that they could play around with. So we see it as two sort of key pain points that we're solving. One is this idea that you have to like to get into the space, you kind of need to go through a couple steps, and also to get into the space, it's a little like clunky with the user interfaces on a lot of these platforms.
Yeah, hearing about it, I like the idea, because what it does, it seems to be lowering this, how do you say this, the requirements that people need to meet in order to start. Yeah, because we all talk about crypto like it's easy. Yeah, we as in people who are involved in it. Yeah, but if you imagine, or if I think back about myself when I just entered it, it seemed so much complicated, and I can understand that it still is for a lot of people. And what we're looking for to do is just to make it easier, to make it less complicated for the people to enter, and then and such products seem to be working directly in this sphere, and where can you, like, as a user, where can you get more information about those upcoming products? They are upcoming, right? They are not yet released, correct?
Yeah, so I think the timeline for release of those projects is, I think they're both going to come in either March or April. So they're going to be coming very quickly, like in unison. So in order to get some more information, both of them have their own sort of Telegram and Twitter places. I can drop that information in the YouTube channel, just so folks can take a look. These are going to be fair launch projects. So basically, there's no token sale with regards to these projects right now. They're going to basically incentivize early entrants or early participants with governance tokens. So these governance tokens can accrue rights to the protocol, can make adjustments. So we want to make this sort of as fair as possible. So the users of the platform will actually own the platform, and there's no sort of pre-mine for like team members. So we think it's a good sort of trial case of can this work? We've seen good success with this sort of thing with like Wi-Fi and sushi and those sorts of projects. So we think we can mirror those successes on Icon, and we're really excited to see how it shakes out in a month or so.
Yeah, just throwing it in there. If you are looking towards a like getting those tokens when they are released on a decentralized exchange, we do have one. Our team of developers have released something that's called WhiteSwap. It's a DEX from the makers of WhiteBIT. So yeah, just giving you an idea. Okay, yeah, and here we have moved towards our last question that has been submitted via the Google Forms, and it's actually it's an amalgam of a lot of questions that we have received, and a lot of people seem to have asked questions about your cooperation with various other cryptocurrency companies, as well as cooperation with payment providers like Visa and MasterCard, and it would be great to maybe if you could tell us which collaborations or your personal accomplishments you are most proud of that have already been done, and what is something that all Icon fans can expect coming soon, except for what we have already mentioned here.
Yeah. So as far as like our, we kind of talked about the evolution of the project, and I think you kind of understand that we some of the founders of the project had very good reputation within the enterprise and sort of government space pre Icon project launch. So I think a lot of those things have sort of helped expand Icon's presence amongst those entities sort of more broadly. I think the most recent sort of bigger announcement that we've had with regards to like integrations is with Danal, which is one of the leading payment companies in Korea. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of getting integration into Danal Pay. So there's a lot of things like in the works there in Korea, like I mentioned. But I think what I'm sort of really excited about is the opportunity to broaden that outside of Korea with a lot of the things that we're building today. I think anytime you see the trajectory of the market sort of go up and to the right, a lot of people start to get more and more interested in the things that you're building on the public blockchain space. And I've had a number of my former colleagues and friends that work in enterprise innovation that reach out and say give us a education or like a 101 on sort of blockchain and how can Icon be a potential solution to needs that we have. So like getting a lot of those sort of inbounds is really exciting, and I think the more sort of shots on goal you have with those sorts of enterprise companies, the more successful you'll be, because the hit rate still is like quite low. But like I said, the more shots on goal, the more successful you'll be. And just seeing that, progress, that's kind of progressed as quickly as the market has over the past 6 months, is really exciting. And I think you'll see, more of that into the latter half of this year and into next year. And then I think you'll also see, with regards to crypto focused projects, integrations, because, like I said, we want to be a network of networks. We're not, trying to be the end all be all. So we want to make connections with other communities. Yeah. I think, the first you saw was, the community probably saw was with Orbit Bridge. So now we have wrapped assets on Ethereum and wrapped assets on Icon. That's just sort of the first iteration. We're going to also have, a community. It's probably one of the top 5 in the market today, or the top 20 in the market today. So we're going to be adding these communities to our ecosystem. It's just going to strengthen, what we've built and what we're going to continue to build. And sort of goes back to the ethos that was outlined in 2017 when this project was launched.
Yeah, perfect. I do like the how this network of networks idea sound, because it kind of reminds me of what we are trying to build up ourselves here at WhiteBIT. Yeah, because I'll never get tired of saying this. We're trying to build those bridges and build those communications with the key market players, because we believe that it is through cooperation and collaboration and working together that we can really formulate this market that is still really young. Yeah, and it is not through this how do you call it, this being competitors or having trying to it is trying to work together that is going to lead this market to being
I agree.
This new big place.
I do think the market is still pretty small.
Right,
so,
right. It's young and it's not stable, and that is why a lot of people seem to be having this stereotype that it is yet something shady, something not right, something not for regular people. This is exactly the reason for that, I believe, and it lays partially on us as players in this market to build it up in order to raise it to the level of of understanding of the regular people, let's say.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just going to take education and time, right. And there's like I think most of the people want to abstract away the blockchain side of a lot of these like applications and use cases, and then there's like a small segment that kind of wants to keep crypto keep it more native, and make folks just sort of ramp up on how things could look in the future. And I think both have sort of valid points. For if we want to get mass adoption, I think we need to go with the former. But if we want to keep this sort of a niche space that sort of just tries to compete or has a secondary sort of financial marketplace, I think that that's fine as well. But we'll sort of see how things evolve. I think with a lot of these major companies getting into the fold of public blockchain, you're going to start to see things, the lines sort of blur a little bit more, and see more of abstraction away from private keys and public keys and those sorts of things on the wallet side. So I think it remains to be seen where we go. But I think this is a long, like I mentioned, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll see where things shake out.
Yeah, and you shouldn't probably expect it to happen like next year or tomorrow, because how long has this market been around? It's just been a couple of years, which is like nothing compared to the to other markets, let's say. Yeah, so it's going to happen gradually, of course, that's for sure. Yeah, just wanted to ask this quick question that came to my mind. You were talking about Korea, yeah, and working with the Korean payment provider, right?
Yeah.
The name escapes me. You have mentioned the name, yeah?
Yeah. Denal, yeah.
Right. So I just wanted to, I was curious to ask, what is the, the regulatory situation in Korea? How do they work with crypto? Is it easier to work with Korea, or what was like the reason for you to choose this? I know that you have a part of the team there and mostly development, right? So was that the main reason behind that, or was it mostly the regulatory part? Like,
I would definitely say that there are friendlier jurisdictions than Korea on the crypto side. I do think that they are becoming more and more interested in things that are going on in public blockchain. I think one of the regulatory agencies just put out like a 300-page report outlining cryptocurrencies, DeFi, market trends. Right. So they're definitely paying attention. I think we've played a good part in that. And I think that they're, as they continue to learn more and get sort of more intimately involved in the ecosystem, I think they start to, forget about these sort of headlines about, crypto being sort of scammy or, crypto facilitating all these like dark market like purchases. And they start to see that this is actually something that could be legitimate. Maybe it's in its sort of infant days now, but this could be something that is foundational in the future. So, as those sort of, as the research and more education takes place, I think the regulators get more and more comfortability around, what's going on in the space. Would I say that they're like super open to crypto right now? I would say they're probably comparable to like the US, for example, which I think is taking like, a relatively open-minded and like pragmatic approach to like regulation. And I think, Korea is in sort of a similar boat.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So those were all the questions that we have chosen from those that our community has submitted via the Google form. I appreciate you answering them all. Those were some really, detailed answers, and I appreciate your expertise and your, additional interesting pieces of information that was really curious to know, to learn. And yeah, so we're getting closer towards the hour, and I think we can answer one or two live questions. Yeah. And then wrap it up slowly. Yeah. So the first one I can see here. Yeah. Could you tell us about the contribution proposal system? What advantages does it provide? What goals does it cover? And when will it be released?
Yeah. So the contribution proposal system is a decentralized grant program. So when Icon 2.0 launches, block rewards, so basically like new network inflation, will go into this contribution proposal fund. And those funds will be sort of accessible by the representatives of the network to deploy into the ecosystem. So, if we need, $20,000 to build out tooling for, a particular like developer set, that money could be used for something like that. Or if we needed a sponsorship for, XYZ event, and it was $5,000, like, and PREPs approved it, those funding or that funding could go to those sorts of things, or it could go to funding, sort of seed stage DApps on the network. So, the funds can be used in whatever way sort of the community sees fit and feels is sort of a need for the network. So we're really excited about it. It sort of takes the sort of this idea of like one person in charge and like driving the ship, or steering the ship, and sort of puts it in the hands of our community, and sort of allows them to take a look at the project, see its sort of shortcomings, and where they can have their voice and have it be heard, and get funding in order to pursue their initiative. So we're really excited about it. We're expecting it to launch like the sort of beta version in the next couple weeks. And that will have 250K ICX. So I don't know what that is in today's value. Hopefully there'll be a much more in the coming days, but that'll be 250K for the beta, and then in June it will go up to 1 million ICX in that fund. So it will be a significant amount of funding for the project, and we think it can be something that really spurs a lot of growth in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and like a lot of people seem to have been asking about your plans for marketing, and I believe that once that's there, that it will be much easier to roll out some incentive programs and marketing stuff and whatnot to further incentivize the community, right?
Yeah, I think incentives, as we've all seen over the past year, or throughout blockchain sort of entire lifespan, that incentives really drive, I think, the adoption of networks, and also just the I would say the community sentiment as well. I think what you've seen with like the yield farming summer of last year, that incentives rule, and you saw with like sushi and these other sort of farming projects that if you provide the incentives, you'll get the users, and we're keenly focused on that. So stay tuned there. The incentives will be there, and on the marketing side, I get that question a lot, and I'm kind of sort of tagged because I sort of reside as like the I guess what people think is like a head of marketing. That's not really the case, but I'm happy to sort of shoulder the blame if anyone wants to point anything at me. But that's fine. But I'm in 100% like agreement that we're at a point now in the project's sort of lifespan that we want to add users, and we will do what it takes to add users, because we're not building Icon 2.0, this sort of foundational technology, to have it sort of sit and flounder.
Right, of course.
So like that's just not a strategy that makes sense, and we're not going to go down that route. So we're going to do what it takes to get users, to get developers, to get people excited about it. So just stay tuned there.
Yeah, I believe that will make a lot of people happy. Yeah. And that's right. Yeah, there is not much use in building a cutting-edge product, and just telling nobody about it. So that's a good part. That's a big part, of the development of new products. Okay, perfect. So it seems like my internet won't let me go. So I think it's a good time to wrap it up. And
awesome.
So once again, appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you answering all those questions, being transparent, providing us much information as possible. We will be releasing this video on our YouTube channel as usual. So all of you who have heard your question answered here, please expect an email within the next couple of days with your ICX reward. And thank you, Ricky. I would be happy to talk again soon. And of course, Icon is available on WhiteBIT. You can check it out there, and I believe we will be discussing some more events connected with Icon and WhiteBIT. There have been discussions about trading competitions, I believe, and something like that. So you can stay tuned for that as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.
Thanks, Andrew. Talk soon.
Yep.